I'm back. Welcome to Thursday Reviews. Today we're going to be reviewing the Elenco snap circuits with the model number SC300. Here's the box it comes in. Everything nicely fits into place here. It comes with some project books, and in the case of mine, has two of them. Under these is the board that everything snaps onto. Then you have all the parts and components down here. The integrated circuits, or ICs, are in this general area. These are the battery packs. It takes 2 AA's per pack, and it doesn't come with them. There are also transistors and LEDs across the top. The lamps and motors come down the side, and in the middle is where you'll find the switches and capacitors. The resistors are also over here. Now, with snap circuits, there are two types of wires. There's the snap wire and jumper wire. The snap wires don't really look like wires, but they still function as one. The jumper wires do the same thing, but they sometimes make it easier to connect 2 points of a circuit you're building. They call it snap circuits for a reason, so everything, and I mean everything, snaps together, including to the board. There's 2 books in here as well. This one has the first 101 projects and comes with the SC100, which is the next model down from this one. The second book continues to project 305. Let's look inside the first book. It has some safety instructions and a list of all the projects. At first the projects are pretty simple. It's things like dealing with the lights, motors, and the basics of electricity. Then they begin to add some of the extra components to the mix. The way you read these diagrams is pretty simple. You build what you see, and these black numbers here tell you how high up the item is from the board. Okay, I will now show you how to build the first project in the book, and then I'm going to pick something from the second book to show you what you can do with some of the extra things in here. So let's start with this. So we need a battery pack, L1, which is the lamp, and our side switch. Now there's actually 2 lamps in here, but we need L1, which looks like this. Just says L1 right on it. And we need a switch, a slide switch, and we need a battery pack. We also need some 2 snap wires where they have the 2 on them, and a 3 snap wire. So let me get those. Everything's going to stick to this board here, so I'll just have the board there. Now, first things first, if we look at it, I always like to start with the battery pack. And so they put the battery pack over there, and they have a number 1. That black 1 means that it's the first level, so it's going to be on the bottom. So it's just the battery pack right there, like that. Okay. Then there's a 2 snap wire that goes this way, but you'll notice it has a number 2. That means it's going to be above the battery pack by 1. It's going to be on the second level. Okay, so it's good to build everything that's on a number 1 like that first. So let's put the lamp and the switch over here, because they're on their first level too. So these are all the components that are on the first level of the board. Everything else on here has a black number 2 in the picture, and so it's the rest of these 2 snap wires, and they just go across here on the second level, and everything should work. I would make sure that your switch is off and that you got your batteries in there so that it can be ready to go when you're done. So now you have it built. Try the switch out, and the lamp glows. There you go. That's the first circuit, making a light turn on and off with a switch. And then they tell you how it works with a description on the side. So yeah. So now I've chosen a project from the second book that kind of showcases some of the stuff. So like this has an amplifier, which does not exist in the first book. And I'm also going to be using a transistor, which is also not in the first book. And now might be a good time to mention, and you don't always have to follow it, but these letters and these numbers are also on your board, And so everything that it's going to be hard to see. Yeah, there are 1, 2, 3, 4. It goes all the way to, I think, 10. And then it goes A through G. And so if you have a really big project, which there are some of in this book, it sometimes would be beneficial to follow the letters and the numbers and place the components in that place, because that way you don't run out of room on your board. But with some projects it doesn't usually matter too much. Now these number 1 pieces seem kind of pointless because they're not really wires. There's just a single point here. And while it's not really used as a wire, sometimes you'll come across a situation where there's just a floating piece like this and you need something there so that it can support it. So it's basically just used as a supporting piece or an elevating piece to allow you to build higher, and so that there's no floating components on your board. So the circuit, at least to my knowledge, is fully built and should work. Now what does it do? Well, if we read the description here, it's the radio music burglar alarm, which just says place the circuit next to an AM radio. So I've got my spirit box here that does AM and FM radio, and so I can tune to the station exactly. And it's portable, which is nice. It says tune so that no radio stations are heard. Set the slide switch on, which is right here. You should hear the song play. The red LED should also be lit. Adjust the variable capacitor, which is right here, which is also not in the first. There are no capacitors in the first box of these projects. And it says adjust the capacitor for the loudest signal. Connect a jumper wire, which is this thing, across points A and B, which are these points here. So we're going to be closing through here. The transistor, right here, acts like a switch connecting the power to the music IC. Positive voltage on the base turns on the switch and negative voltage opens it. Connect a string to the jumper wire and the other end of the string to a door or window. Turn the slide switch on. If a thief comes in through the door or window, the string would pull the jumper wires off and the music would play on the radio. So it basically acts as though it were a radio. So now if we turn it on, oh yeah, we turn on our AM radio. I'll turn it on and I'll put it on AM. Okay, can't really hear anything, right? Because it's off. If I turn it on, plays through it once. Okay, it actually came in quite loud there too. Okay, so now I'm going to connect the jumper wires across here to the transistor. Okay, and now nothing happens. You'll notice I turn it off, turn it on, nothing happens. But if the jumper wire ever disconnects, if you tied it to a door and somebody opens the door and the jumper wire disconnects, it plays through just the once. And so it acts like a burglar alarm. So these circuits are actually quite useful, and they do teach you how you can set up something like that. So I've pulled out some components of the Snap Circuits board, and I will now test all of these using an actual multimeter to show you kind of how everything works, and to show you that they truly are the accurate values, and like the resistors have the correct values, the capacitors are correct values, everything is good. Now you've got to remember that these are rechargeable batteries, and so they're rated at 1.2 volts apiece, and so having them both together in series would mean that it's about 2.4, 2.5 volts, and that's what it's showing. So these are actually fully charged batteries. So now I'm going to go over the pros and cons. So the first thing that I like is that you can actually see what the components look like. If you pull something random out of this box, chances are you'll be able to see, or at least sort of see, what they actually look like in real world applications or use on an actual either breadboard or any sort of circuit, whatever you may need them on. You can actually see what they look like on here. Another thing I like is the IC chips. It just kind of makes it more of a fun experience, and it's kind of a unique take on a children's board or something like this, is to have individual ICs, chips, and it teaches you about what ICs are. And it's kind of a unique concept, and I just like how they did it. And I think it's cool that it's meant for all ages. Well, I guess except if you're above 108 years old. Too bad for you then. I also like how everything just snaps together, so you don't have to have a soldering iron, you don't need any soldering experience, you don't need anything fancy. You just need to know how to snap things together. You're very free to experiment with whatever circuit you may want to make on the board, and I really like that. You don't just have to follow every project in the book, step by step by step. After you're done, you can make any project you want. It's kind of an interesting way to kind of hopefully get all that stuff crammed into your brain better about how electricity works and how it's flowing through your circuit. So now I'm going to go over the cons. The first thing is the speaker. It's just obnoxious. It is a loud speaker. It's just... you build 5-6 projects using the speaker in a row and you start going crazy. So it is kind of annoying, but it is still cool that it's in there. Just, I wish it weren't so loud. The only other thing is that the box is massive. Now, I mean, it comes with a lot of pieces, but those Lincoln Log sets come with a bunch of pieces too, and those are all just crammed into the box. It's nice that they tried organizing it here in a box like that, but it's a massive box. So it's just kind of hard to find a place to store it or whatever, or putting things back in the right place. I mean, sure, I guess it could, especially for some of the younger people that may start off by learning electronics and electricity on these kind of circuits. It's also good to teach them organization, but I mean, with Lincoln Logs, they're supposed to teach you how to build stuff, and then you just cram everything back in the box. Same thing with Jenga, or, you know, pretty much everything else that comes with a bunch of pieces like that. It's just something that I wish didn't take up so much room. Thank you for watching this week's episode of Thursday Reviews. There will be a new one up next week, and I will see you then.